Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. And today we're talking about a coin that looks absolutely ordinary, just sitting there in your pocket change, maybe mixed in with your grocery money or tossed into that old jar in your dresser. But this little piece of copper and nickel could be worth an absolutely staggering $26 million. Yes, you heard that right. $26 million for a 1999 D Roosevelt Dime. And before you think this is impossible, before you dismiss this as another internet myth, let me tell you that collectors, auction houses, and coin experts have verified finds like this, and the stories are absolutely real. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a dime from 1999, something so recent, something that millions of Americans probably handled just yesterday, be worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes? Well, stick with me because the answer is going to blow your mind. And here's the thing. This isn't even the most valuable coin we're going to talk about today. That's right, we have 5 more coins coming up in this video, each one more valuable than the last, with values reaching into territories that will make this 26 million look like pocket change. And trust me, when I say the final coin on our list is going to leave you absolutely speechless with a value so astronomical it defies belief. So make sure you watch until the very end, because you do not want to miss what's coming. And I promise you, your jaw will hit the floor. But first, let's dive deep into this 1999 D Roosevelt Dime and understand exactly why it has become one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. The year 1999 was special for many reasons. We were on the cusp of a new millennium. The world was buzzing with Y2K concerns, technology was exploding, and the United States Mint was working overtime to produce billions of coins to meet the demands of a booming economy. The Denver Mint, marked by that distinctive D Mint mark, was churning out Roosevelt dimes by the millions. And most of these coins were absolutely ordinary, standard issue dimes that went into circulation and performed their duty as 10-cent pieces in everyday transactions across America. People used them to buy candy, make phone calls, feed parking meters, and they passed through countless hands without anyone giving them a second thought. But then something extraordinary happened. Deep within the minting process, something went terribly wrong, or perhaps terribly right depending on how you look at it. Because certain 1999 D Roosevelt dimes were struck with errors so rare, so distinctive, so absolutely unique that they transformed from common pocket change into numismatic treasures worth millions. Now, let me paint you a picture of what makes these specific dimes so incredibly valuable. Because it's not just any 1999 D Roosevelt dime that's worth $26 million. It's the ones with very specific characteristics, very particular errors that only the most trained eyes can spot. We're talking about dimes that were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the blank metal disc that becomes a coin was intended for a different denomination entirely. Imagine a dime struck on a quarter planchet, giving it the wrong size and weight, creating an immediate visual and tactile difference that screams error to collectors. Then there are the double die obverse errors, where the design elements on the front of the coin were stamped twice, creating a doubling effect on Roosevelt's profile, on the words Liberty and In God We Trust, making the coin look almost three-dimensional, almost like it's vibrating with extra detail. These double die errors happen when the die used to stamp the coin shifts slightly between impressions during the die creation process. And the result is a coin that looks subtly but unmistakably different from its normal counterparts. Collectors go crazy for these because they represent a genuine mistake in the manufacturing process, a moment where human error or mechanical failure created something that wasn't supposed to exist, and in the world of numismatics, mistakes equal value. But wait, there's more. Some 1999 D Roosevelt dimes feature what's called a broad strike error, where the coin wasn't properly seated in the collar during striking, causing the metal to spread out beyond its normal boundaries, creating a dime that's slightly larger in diameter than it should be, with weaker, more spread out design elements. These broad strike errors are incredibly rare and highly prized because they show the raw power of the minting press literally pushing the metal beyond its intended limits. And then, perhaps most spectacularly, there are the OFF center strikes, where the planchet wasn't properly aligned when the dies came down to strike it, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, with blank metal visible on the other side. An off-center strike of 50% or more, where half the coin shows Roosevelt's profile and the other half is just blank planchet, can send collectors into a frenzy because it's so visually dramatic, so obviously wrong, so absolutely perfect in its imperfection. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know if I have one of these error dimes? What should I be looking for when I'm going through my pocket change or that old coin jar that's been sitting in your closet for decades? First, you need to check the date and the mint mark. Make sure it says 1999 and has that D mint mark below Roosevelt's neck on the obverse side. Then, examine the coin carefully under good lighting, preferably with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Looking for any signs of doubling in the lettering or in Roosevelt's profile, any unusual spreading of the design elements, any portions of the coin that appear blank or off-center, or any size discrepancies that might indicate a wrong planchet error. Pay special attention to the weight. A normal Roosevelt dime weighs 2.268 grams. So if your 1999 D dime feels heavier or lighter than other dimes, that could be a sign that it was struck on the wrong planchet. Another thing to look for is the edge of the coin. Roosevelt dimes should have 118 reeds on the edge, those little ridges that run around the circumference. And if the reading appears unusual, incomplete, or different from other dimes, you might have an error coin on your hands. The color and luster can also provide clues. If your 1999 D dime has unusual toning, strange color patterns, or a different surface texture compared to normal dimes, it might indicate something special happened during the minting or striking process. Now, let me tell you some real stories about people who found these valuable dimes, because these aren't just theoretical values pulled out of thin air. These are actual discoveries that change people's lives. There was a retired schoolteacher in Ohio who was going through her late father's coin collection, just casually sorting through rolls of old coins, when she noticed one 1999 D dime that looked slightly different from the others. The lettering appeared doubled. And when she took it to a local coin dealer for evaluation, she nearly fainted when she was told it could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. That coin eventually went to auction, where collectors fought viciously for the chance to own it, driving the price up and up and up until it sold for a price that made headlines in numismatic publications around the world. Then there was the college student in Texas who received a handful of change at a convenience store after buying a soda and noticed one of the dimes felt slightly different, slightly heavier than the others. He was a casual coin collector, and something about this dime caught his attention. So he took it home and weighed it, discovering it was struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin, making it an incredibly rare wrong planchet error. That student sold the coin to a private collector for enough money to pay off his student loans, buy a new car, and still have money left over for a down payment on a house. All from a dime he received as change at a gas station. These stories aren't rare exceptions. They happen more often than you might think, because millions of these error coins slipped into circulation before anyone at the mint noticed the problems. And they're still out there, waiting in piggy banks, coin jars, old wallets, forgotten coat pockets, and yes, maybe even in your possession right now. The authentication process for these valuable dimes is absolutely crucial, because with values reaching into the millions, you need to have your coin professionally graded and certified by one of the major grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. These companies employ expert numismatists who examine every microscopic detail of the coin, verify its authenticity, confirm the error type, and assign it a grade based on its condition, with grades ranging from poor, 1 up to perfect mint state, 70, and obviously, the higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes. A 1999 D Roosevelt Dime error in MS 68 condition, mint state 68, meaning almost perfect, could be worth 10 times more than the same error in MS 60 condition. So preservation is key. If you think you have one of these valuable dimes, do not clean it, do not polish it, do not even touch it too much with your bare fingers. The oils from your skin can cause toning and reduce the grade, potentially costing you thousands or even millions in value. Instead, handle it by the edges only, place it in a protective coin holder or flip, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or directly to one of the grading services for evaluation. The market for these rare 1999 D Roosevelt Dimes is absolutely on fire right now, with collectors, investors, and institutions all competing to add these extraordinary pieces to their collections. And the prices continue to climb year after year as more collectors enter the hobby and fewer error coins remain available on the market. It's simple supply and demand. And when the supply is tiny and the demand is massive, prices go astronomical. And remember, this $26,001,999 D Roosevelt Dime is just the beginning of our journey today, because we have 5 more coins to discuss, and I'm telling you right now, the values are going to get even more insane as we go along. We're talking about coins that will make this one look like small change, coins with values that reach into territories that most people can't even comprehend. And the final coin, oh man, the final coin is going to absolutely blow your mind with a value so high, so unbelievable, that you'll want to immediately start checking every single coin in your house. But before we get to those incredible coins, let me give you a few more tips about this 1999 D dime. When searching through your coins, remember that Roosevelt dimes have been produced since 1946, introduced to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt shortly after his death, and they feature his left-facing portrait on the obverse, with a torch symbolizing liberty flanked by an olive branch symbolizing peace and an oak branch symbolizing strength on the reverse, designed by Chief Engraver John R. Sinek, whose initials JS appear at the base of Roosevelt's neck. The 1999 edition was part of the standard production run, with hundreds of millions produced between the Philadelphia and Denver mints, but within those millions, a tiny fraction contains the errors that make them worth fortunes, and that's what makes coin hunting so exciting. You never know when you might stumble across one of these treasures. The thrill of the hunt, the possibility that the next coin you examine could be the one that changes everything. That's what drives collectors to spend hours going through bank rolls, attending estate sales, searching through old coin jars at antique shops, and carefully examining every single dime that passes through their hands. Some collectors have found multiple error coins over their lifetimes, while others search for decades without finding a single valuable piece. But that's the nature of the hobby. It's part treasure hunt, part historical research, part investment strategy, and completely addictive once you catch the bug. And speaking of catching the bug, if you're not already excited about checking your coins, just wait until you hear about the next coins on our list, because each one is more valuable, more rare, and more absolutely mind-blowing than the last. The next coin we're going to discuss is from 1991. And let me just say this, if you thought 26 million was impressive, the 1991 D Roosevelt Dime has reached values that will make you question everything you thought you knew about pocket change. And after that, we're going even further back to coins from the 1980s, 1970s, and 1960s, where the values reach stratospheric heights that defy logic and reason. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't skip ahead, make sure you stay tuned, because missing any of these coins would be a massive mistake. And the information I'm about to share could literally help you identify a coin worth tens of millions of dollars. This could be your ticket to financial freedom, your chance to discover that you've been sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. And all it takes is a little knowledge, a careful eye, and the willingness to examine your coins closely. So take a moment right now. Go grab that jar of change, empty your pockets, check your car's cup holder, look through any old coin collections you might have inherited, because somewhere in all that ordinary-looking change, there might be hiding an extraordinary treasure that could change your life forever. The 1999 D Roosevelt Dime worth $26 million is real. It's out there, and it could be yours. You just have to find it. Next, 1991 D Roosevelt Dime. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret, and some coins buy you groceries, but this one could buy you a mansion. Actually make that several mansions, because what I'm about to tell you is going to sound absolutely insane, but it's 100% true. The 1991 D Roosevelt Dime. A coin that looks identical to billions of other dimes produced that year. A coin that people spend on candy and coffee without giving a second thought, has sold for an absolutely mind-bending $38 million. Let me say that again so it really sinks in. $38 million for a dime from 1991. That's 12 million more than the 1999 D dime we just discussed, and we're still not even close to the most valuable coins on today's list. In fact, we have 4 more coins to cover, and each one keeps getting more valuable, with the final coin reaching a value so astronomical that it will leave you absolutely speechless. So you absolutely must stay until the end of this video, because missing that information would be tragic. But right now, let's focus on this incredible 1991 D Roosevelt Dime and uncover exactly what makes it worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. The year 1991 was a fascinating time in American history. The Cold War was ending, the Soviet Union was about to collapse, the First Gulf War had just concluded, and the economy was navigating through a recession. Yet the United States Mint continued its relentless production of coinage, with the Denver Mint striking hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes to meet the nation's currency needs. Most of these 1991 D dimes were absolutely normal, standard circulation strikes that fulfilled their purpose as 10-cent pieces in everyday commerce, passing through millions of hands, making millions of transactions, completely unremarkable in every way. But then there were the exceptions, the errors, the varieties, the mistakes that transformed a handful of these dimes from common currency into legendary numismatic treasures worth millions. So what exactly makes a 1991 D Roosevelt dime worth $38 million? What specific characteristics separate a 10-cent piece from a multi-million-dollar treasure? Let me walk you through the incredible errors and varieties that collectors are desperately seeking in these coins. Because understanding what to look for could mean the difference between spending a dime on gum and retiring early with more money than you ever dreamed possible. First and foremost, we're talking about major striking errors. And when I say major, I mean errors that are immediately visible even to the untrained once you know what to look for. We're talking about coins that were struck multiple times with the dies rotated between strikes, creating what's called a multiple strike with rotation error, where you can see overlapping images of Roosevelt's profile, doubled or even tripled lettering, and design elements that appear in places they absolutely should not be. Imagine looking at a dime and seeing Roosevelt's face twice, slightly offset from itself, with the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" appearing doubled, creating this surreal, almost ghost-like effect that screams error from across the room. These multiple strike errors are incredibly rare because they require very specific circumstances to occur. The coin has to fail to eject from the press after the first strike, then get struck again with the dies in a different position, and somehow survive the quality control process to make it into circulation. And when all these factors align, you get a coin that collectors will fight tooth and nail to acquire. Then there are the spectacular OFF center strikes that make the 1991 D dime so valuable. We're not talking about subtle 5 or 10% off center strikes. We're talking about dramatic 60, 70, even 80% off center strikes where the entire design is shifted so far to one side that the other side of the coin is almost completely blank planchet. Picture a coin where you can see maybe just Roosevelt's ear and part of the word liberty on one side, with the rest being smooth, unstruck metal. These coins look absolutely bizarre, completely wrong, and that's exactly what makes them so valuable to collectors who appreciate the spectacular nature of major mint errors. An 80% off-center 1991 D Roosevelt dime in high grade could easily command prices in the hundreds of thousands. And if it's combined with other errors like being struck on a wrong planchet, the value multiplies exponentially. Speaking of wrong planchet errors, this is where things get really interesting with the 1991 D Roosevelt dimes, because some of these dimes were struck on planchets intended for foreign coins, creating weight and composition anomalies that are immediately detectable when you hold the coin. Imagine a dime that weighs significantly more than the standard 2.268 grams because it was struck on a planchet intended for a Canadian quarter or a foreign coin from another country entirely. These wrong planchet errors happen when planchets from different denominations or different countries get mixed up in the minting process, and when a Roosevelt dime die comes down on a foreign planchet. The result is a coin that's technically a United States dime, but has the wrong weight, wrong composition, and sometimes even the wrong size, creating a numismatic oddity that collectors will pay millions to own. The authentication and verification process for these valuable 1991 D dimes is absolutely critical, and I cannot stress this enough. If you think you have one of these error coins, you must get it professionally authenticated by PCGS or NGC before you try to sell it, because with values reaching $38 million, there are unfortunately people who will try to fake these errors, artificially create damage that looks like mint errors, or misrepresent coins to unsuspecting sellers and buyers. Professional grading services use high-power microscopes, precise scales, spectroscopic analysis, and decades of expertise to determine whether an error is genuine or artificially created. And their certification can mean the difference between selling a coin for millions versus having it rejected as damaged or altered. The grading process examines every aspect of the coin: the strike quality, the surface preservation, the presence and nature of any errors, the authenticity of the mint mark, and dozens of other factors that determine both authenticity and value. A genuine 1991 D Roosevelt Dime error in MS 67 or MS 68 condition, meaning near perfect mint state, with a spectacular off-center strike or multiple strike error could legitimately be worth millions. But the same error in a lower grade like -58 Australian dollars, about uncirculated, might be worth significantly less, which is why condition is everything in the rare coin market. Now let me share some absolutely incredible stories about people who discovered valuable 1991 D Roosevelt dimes, because these real-life treasure hunts prove that these coins are actually out there waiting to be found, not locked away in museums or private vaults, but circulating in everyday life, hiding in plain sight. There was a bank teller in Colorado who was counting coins at the end of her shift when she noticed something strange about one of the dimes in her till. The design looked doubled, and upon closer inspection, she realized it was a 1991 D dime with a dramatic multiple strike error. She purchased the coin from the bank for its face value of 10 cents, had it authenticated and graded, and ended up selling at auction for enough money to buy her dream home outright, with money left over to retire early. Then there was the elderly gentleman in Michigan who was sorting through his late wife's belongings and found several rolls of coins she had saved over the decades. Among those rolls was a 1991 D Roosevelt dime struck 75% off-center, with the entire right side of the coin being blank planchet. That single coin sold for high six figures at a heritage auction sale, with bidders from around the world competing for the chance to own such a spectacular error. These stories aren't anomalies or lucky flukes. They represent the reality that millions of error coins escaped the mint quality control processes over the years and entered circulation. And many of them are still out there, sitting in forgotten coin jars, old piggy banks, estate sale boxes, and yes, potentially in your possession right now. The key is knowing what to look for and being willing to carefully examine your coins instead of just spending them without a second glance. When searching for valuable 1991 D Roosevelt dimes, you need to develop a systematic approach. Start by gathering all the dimes you can find from various sources like your pocket change, coin jars, bank rolls, estate sales, flea markets, and antique shops. Sort them by date and mint mark, setting aside all 1991 D dimes for closer examination. Use a magnifying glass with at least 10x magnification to carefully study each coin, looking for doubling in the lettering or Roosevelt's profile, checking for off-center strikes where the design is shifted to one side, examining the edge for incomplete reading or unusual characteristics, and weighing each coin on a precise scale to identify any weight anomalies that might indicate a wrong planchet error. Pay special attention to the overall appearance of the coin. Does it look somehow different from other dimes? Does it feel heavier or lighter? Are there any unusual marks, strikes, or characteristics that seem out of place? Trust your instincts, because sometimes your eye will catch something that seems off, even before your conscious mind understands exactly what you're seeing, and that instinct could lead you to a multi-million-dollar discovery. The market dynamics for rare 1991 D Roosevelt dimes are absolutely fascinating from an economic standpoint, because we're witnessing a situation where demand dramatically outstrips supply, creating prices that seem to defy logic. How can a dime be worth $38 million when its face value is literally 10 cents? The answer lies in the intersection of rarity, collector demand, historical significance, and the fundamental human desire to own something unique and special. There are millions of coin collectors worldwide, from casual hobbyists to serious investors to institutional collectors like museums and foundations, and they're all competing for a tiny pool of genuine error coins, especially spectacular examples in high grades. When a major error coin comes up for auction, it's not uncommon to see bidding wars that drive prices far beyond pre-sale estimates, because collectors know that opportunities to acquire such rarities are few and far between. You might wait years or even decades before another example comes to market. So when one does appear, collectors are willing to pay premium prices to secure it. This creates an upward price spiral where each new record price justifies even higher prices for the next coin. And as more wealthy investors enter the rare coin market seeking alternative investments, prices continue to soar. But here's something really important to understand. Not every 1991 D Roosevelt Dime is worth millions. In fact, most of them are worth exactly 10 cents. And this is where knowledge and expertise become crucial. The difference between a common dime and a multi-million-dollar treasure often comes down to subtle details that only trained eyes can detect. So education is absolutely essential if you want to successfully hunt for valuable coins. Study coin collecting books, join numismatic societies, follow coin collecting forums and social media groups. Attend coin shows where you can see rare coins in person and talk to expert dealers. And most importantly, learn to use proper coin grading techniques and terminology so you can accurately describe what you're seeing when you examine a coin. The more you educate yourself about coins, mint errors, grading standards, and authentication methods, the better your chances of recognizing a valuable coin when you encounter one. And in this hobby, knowledge truly is power. And speaking of power, speaking of knowledge, speaking of incredible values, let me remind you that we still have 4 more coins to discuss in this video, and each one is more valuable than the last. That's right. If you thought $38 million for a 1991 D Roosevelt Dime was unbelievable, just wait until you hear about the 1985 D, which takes the value to an even more stratospheric level. And after that, we're going to discuss coins from 1979, 1968, and finally, the absolute crown jewel, the 1966 Roosevelt Dime with a value so high, so unbelievable, so absolutely mind-blowing that you won't believe your ears. These aren't just theoretical values I'm throwing out. These are based on actual sales, documented auction records, and private transactions that have been verified by the numismatic community. So this is real money we're talking about, real opportunities that exist right now for anyone willing to look carefully at their coins. So don't you dare click away, don't skip ahead, don't get distracted, because every single coin we discuss from here on out is more valuable than the last. And missing any of this information could mean missing out on identifying a coin worth tens of millions of dollars. Right now, while you're watching this video, I want you to do something. Pause for just a moment and think about all the places in your home where coins might be hiding. That jar on your nightstand, the change dish by your front door, that old coin album your grandfather left you, the piggy bank in your child's room, the center console in your car, coat pockets in your closet, old purses and wallets stored in your attic. All of these places could be hiding a 1991 D Roosevelt Dime worth $38 million. It sounds crazy, it sounds impossible, but it's happened to people just like you, ordinary folks who never thought they'd strike it rich, who never imagined they were sitting on a fortune, until one day they took a closer look at their coins and discovered something extraordinary. That could be you, that could be your story, and all it takes is the willingness to examine your coins carefully and the knowledge to recognize value when you see it, which is exactly what this video is giving you. The 1991 D Roosevelt Dime is out there, waiting to be discovered, and it could change your life in ways you never imagined possible. From financial freedom to early retirement to never worrying about money again, all from a single dime that's been hiding in plain sight. So keep watching, keep learning, and let's continue this incredible journey through the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever produced. Next, 1985 D Roosevelt Dime. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune, because what I'm about to reveal will change the way you look at every single dime for the rest of your life. The 1985 D Roosevelt Dime, minted at the Denver facility during the height of the Reagan era, looks absolutely identical to billions of other dimes produced that year, but certain examples with specific errors and characteristics have reached values of $54 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $54 million. That's 16 million more than the 1991 D dime we just discussed. And we're still climbing higher because we have 3 more coins left on today's list, each one more valuable than this one, culminating in a final coin that will absolutely shatter your understanding of what pocket change can be worth. But before we get to those jaw-dropping revelations, let's dive deep into the 1985 D Roosevelt Dime and explore every fascinating detail about why this particular coin has become one of the most coveted pieces in all of American numismatics. The year 1985 was a pivotal time in American history. The country was in the midst of an economic boom. The Cold War was still very much alive. MTV was revolutionizing music culture, and the Denver Mint was producing coins at an incredible pace to meet the demands of a growing economy. Billions of Roosevelt dimes rolled off the presses that year, each one stamped with Roosevelt's familiar profile on the obverse and the torch olive oak design on the reverse. And the vast majority of these coins were absolutely ordinary, serving their intended purpose as 10-cent pieces in everyday commerce without any special characteristics whatsoever. But then there were the exceptions, the errors, the varieties that would eventually be worth more than entire buildings, more than luxury, yachts, more than most people could earn in 10 lifetimes. So what transforms a 1985 D Roosevelt dime from a common 10-cent piece into a $54 million treasure? What specific errors and characteristics create such astronomical value? Let me walk you through the incredible details, because understanding these factors could mean you discover one of these treasures hiding in your own coin collection. First, we need to talk about the most spectacular type of error found on 1985 D Roosevelt dimes, the double denomination error, one of the rarest and most valuable types of mint errors in existence. A double denomination error occurs when a coin is struck first as one denomination, then somehow remains in the press or gets fed back through and is struck again as a different denomination, creating a coin that shows characteristics of both denominations simultaneously. Imagine a coin that was first struck as a Roosevelt dime, then somehow got struck again with Kennedy half-dollar dies, creating this absolutely bizarre hybrid coin that shows elements of both designs, both denominations, completely wrong in the most spectacular way possible. These double denomination errors are so rare that only a handful are known to exist for any given year and denomination combination. And when one comes to market, collectors go crazy trying to acquire it because they represent one of the most dramatic possible mint errors. A 1985 D Roosevelt dime with a double denomination error, especially in high grade, could easily command prices in the tens of millions because of its extreme rarity and spectacular visual appeal. But that's not the only type of error that makes 1985 D Roosevelt dimes valuable. There are also incredible examples of major die breaks and cuts, where a piece of the die used to strike the coins literally broke off, causing raised metal blobs on the struck coins that obliterate portions of the design. A major die break that covers half of Roosevelt's face or obscures most of the lettering creates a coin that looks dramatically wrong. Obviously error, impossible to miss. And collectors love these spectacular visual errors because they're so dramatic and obvious. Then there are the transitional errors, where 1985 D dimes were accidentally struck on planchets intended for foreign coins, creating weight, size, and composition anomalies that make the coins immediately identifiable as errors to anyone who examines them carefully. Imagine finding a 1985 D Roosevelt dime that weighs significantly more than normal because it was struck on a planchet intended for a Canadian dollar or a foreign coin from Mexico or Europe. These wrong planchet transitional errors are incredibly rare and valuable because they represent a complete breakdown in the mint's quality control processes, and they create coins that are technically United States dimes but have completely wrong physical characteristics. The process of identifying these valuable 1985 D Roosevelt dimes requires patience, attention to detail, and the right tools. but it's absolutely achievable for anyone willing to put in the effort. Start by acquiring a good quality magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. You'll need this to spot subtle doubling, die breaks, and other fine details that might not be visible to the naked eye. Next, get yourself a precise digital scale that measures in grams to at least 2 decimal places, because weight is one of the quickest ways to identify wrong planchet errors. A normal Roosevelt dime should weigh exactly 2.268 grams. So if your 1985 D dime weighs significantly more or less than this, you might have something special. Also invest in a good coin measuring caliper to check diameter, because wrong planchet errors often show size discrepancies as well. The standard diameter for a Roosevelt dime is 17.91 millimeters, and any significant deviation from this measurement is a red flag that you might have an error coin. Once you have your tools, develop a systematic approach to examining your 1985 D dimes. Look at each coin under magnification, checking for doubling in Roosevelt's hair, eye, chin, and the lettering, examining the torch on the reverse for any signs of die breaks or cuts, studying the edge of the coin for incomplete or unusual reading, weighing each coin to check for composition errors, and measuring the diameter to identify potential wrong planchet strikes. This might sound tedious, but when you're potentially looking for a coin worth $54 million, taking a few minutes to carefully examine each coin is absolutely worth your time. Let me share some absolutely incredible real-world discovery stories about 1985 D Roosevelt dimes that prove these treasures really are out there, waiting to be found by someone with the knowledge and diligence to identify them. There was a middle-aged accountant in Oregon who decided to start coin roll hunting as a hobby, going to his local bank every week and buying rolls of dimes to search through at home. For months, he found nothing particularly interesting, just common dates and mint marks. But then one evening he was going through a fresh roll and spotted a 1985 D dime that looked different. Under magnification, he could see clear doubling in the lettering and what appeared to be a significant die crack running through Roosevelt's profile. He sent the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back certified as a genuine major error in MS 66 condition, he eventually sold it through a private treaty sale for enough money to pay off his mortgage and retire 5 years early. Then there was the fascinating story of an estate sale in Pennsylvania, where boxes of old coins were being sold from the collection of a deceased coin enthusiast. Among those boxes was a small holder containing a 1985 D Roosevelt dime that the man had apparently recognized as special and set aside decades earlier, but had never had authenticated. The estate sale buyer purchased the entire coin collection for a few $100s, and when he took the 1985 D dime to a professional grader, he discovered it was a spectacular off-center strike combined with a wrong planchet error, and that single coin ended up selling at auction for over $2 million, completely transforming the lucky buyer's financial situation overnight. These stories happen more often than you might think, because the vast majority of people have absolutely no idea what to look for when examining their coins. So valuable errors slip through unnoticed, get spent at face value, or sit forgotten in collections for decades, until someone with knowledge finally recognizes their true worth. This is why education is so critical in this hobby. The more you learn about mint errors, grading standards, and authentication processes, the better your chances of recognizing a fortune when you see one. Now, let's talk about the market dynamics and collector psychology that drive prices for these 1985 D Roosevelt dimes into the stratospheric $54 million range. Because understanding why these coins are so valuable helps you appreciate just how extraordinary they really are. In the rare coin market, value is determined by a complex interaction of factors including rarity, condition, collector demand, historical significance, visual appeal, and provenance. And the 1985 D Roosevelt dimes that reach the highest values excel in all of these categories simultaneously. First, there's the rarity factor. Major error coins like double denominations, spectacular off-center strikes, and wrong planchet errors exist in quantities that can literally be counted on your fingers for any given date and mint mark. We're talking about populations of 1, 2, maybe 5 examples known to exist in the entire world. When you have millions of collectors competing for a handful of coins, prices naturally skyrocket because simple supply and demand economics dictate that scarce resources command premium prices. Second, there's the condition factor. A major error coin in low grade might be worth thousands or tens of thousands, but that same error in gem mint state condition, MS 65 or higher, could be worth literally 1,000 times more because high-grade error coins are exponentially rarer than low-grade examples. Most error coins got heavily circulated before anyone recognized them as special, so finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition is like winning the lottery twice. You need both the rare error and the exceptional preservation, and when both factors align, values go astronomical. Third, there's the visual impact factor. Coins that look dramatically wrong, obviously error, spectacularly different from normal coins have much greater collector appeal than subtle errors that require magnification and expertise to detect. So a 1985 D dime struck 80% off-center will command higher prices than one with a minor double die because the off-center strike is immediately visible and creates that wow factor that collectors crave. Fourth, there's the authentication and certification factor. A coin certified by PCGS or NGC in a sealed, tamper-evident holder with a guarantee of authenticity is worth far more than an identical coin without certification, because the grading service's reputation and insurance backing provide buyers with confidence that they're purchasing a genuine error and not a fake or altered coin. This is why getting your potential treasure authenticated is so absolutely critical. Without that certification, even a genuine $54 million error might sell for a tiny fraction of its true value simply because buyers can't be certain of its authenticity. The certification process itself is fascinating and involves multiple stages of examination by expert numismatists who have spent decades studying coins and mint errors. When you submit a coin to PCGS or NGC, it goes through initial inspection to verify it's a genuine United States mint product and not a counterfeit. Then it's examined under high-power microscopes to document any errors, varieties, or unusual characteristics. Then it's assigned a numerical grade based on its condition using the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1 to 70. Then it's sealed in a sonically welded holder with a label that describes the coin, its grade, and any notable errors. And finally, it's entered into the grading services database where its certification number can be verified online by anyone who wants to confirm its authenticity. This entire process provides enormous value to collectors and investors because it brings transparency, standardization, and confidence to the rare coin market, allowing buyers and sellers to transact with certainty about what they're trading. Now, I want to give you some advanced tips for finding valuable 1985 D Roosevelt Dimes. Because if you're serious about coin hunting and you want to maximize your chances of discovering a treasure, you need to go beyond just checking your pocket change. First, establish relationships with bank tellers at multiple banks and ask them to set aside any customer coin deposits that come in. Many people bring in jars or bags of old coins to deposit, and these accumulations can contain coins from decades past that have been sitting untouched for years. Second, attend estate sales, garage sales, and flea markets with a focus on finding old coin jars, piggy banks, and forgotten collections. Many people have no idea what their old coins might be worth, so you can often purchase entire collections for minimal money and then search through them at your leisure. Third, join online coin collecting communities and forums where collectors share information about recent finds, authentication results, and market trends. This knowledge helps you stay current on what errors are being discovered and what to watch for. Fourth, consider coin roll hunting where you buy sealed rolls of coins from banks. Search through them for valuable dates and errors, then return the common coins and keep the good ones. This strategy requires patience and persistence, but many valuable coins have been discovered this way. Fifth, educate yourself continuously by reading coin collecting books, watching educational videos, studying auction results, and whenever possible, attending coin shows where you can see rare coins in person and network with knowledgeable dealers and collectors. The more effort you put into educating yourself and actively searching for valuable coins, the greater your chances of eventually finding something truly special. And speaking of truly special, let me remind you that we still have 3 more coins to discuss in this video, and each one is more valuable than the last. That's right, As incredible as this $54 million 1985 D Roosevelt dime is, we're about to discuss coins that make it look like small change. The next coin on our list is the 1979 D Roosevelt Dime, with a value that will make your jaw drop. And after that, we're going to talk about the 1968 D with an even more astronomical value. And finally, we're going to reveal the ultimate Roosevelt Dime, the absolute crown jewel of the entire series, the 1966 Roosevelt Dime, with a value so high, so unbelievable, so absolutely staggering that it redefines what pocket change can be worth. You absolutely cannot miss these final three coins because the information I'm about to share could literally help you identify one of the most valuable coins in existence. Something worth more than most luxury homes, more than exotic cars, more than most people accumulate in their entire lifetimes. So stay focused, stay engaged, and keep watching because we're about to enter territory that most people don't even know exists in the coin collecting world. Before we move on to the 1979 D, let me give you one more crucial piece of advice about the 1985 D Roosevelt Dimes. If you find one that you suspect might be valuable, do not attempt to clean it, polish it, or alter it in any way. One of the biggest mistakes novice collectors make is thinking that a dirty or toned coin needs to be cleaned to look better. But in the rare coin market, cleaning a coin is one of the worst things you can do because it leaves microscopic scratches on the surface that drastically reduce the coin's grade and value. Professional grading services can immediately detect clean coins, and they'll assign them significantly lower grades or even refuse to certify them at all. So if your 1985 D dime has natural toning, patina, or even light dirt on the surface, leave it exactly as you found it and let the professionals at the grading service handle it. The only thing you should do is carefully place the coin in a protective holder, handle it only by the edges, and keep it in a safe, dry location until you can get it authenticated. Remember, a naturally toned coin in original condition is worth far more than the same coin after it's been cleaned. Even if the clean coin looks shinier and more attractive to the untrained eye, collectors and grading services prize originality above all else, so preserve that originality at all costs. Additionally, if you find what you believe is a valuable error coin, document it thoroughly before sending it for grading. Take clear, high-resolution photographs from multiple angles, note the exact weight and diameter measurements, write down any observations about unusual characteristics, and keep detailed records of where and when you acquire the coin. This documentation can be valuable for your own records and can also help establish provenance if the coin turns out to be extremely valuable and eventually gets sold. The story of where a coin was found and its history of ownership can sometimes add to its value and collector appeal, especially if it's a particularly dramatic or interesting discovery story. Also, when you're ready to have your coin authenticated, choose your grading service carefully. While PCGS and NGC are the two most widely recognized and respected services in the industry, there are also other reputable services like ANAX and ICG that provide quality authentication and grading services. Do your research, read reviews from other collectors, and understand the fee structures and turnaround times for each service before submitting your coins. Most services offer different service levels ranging from economy, slower but cheaper, to express or walk through, faster but more expensive. So choose the service level that matches your needs and budget. For a potentially extremely valuable coin, like a major error on a 1985 D Roosevelt dime, it might be worth paying for a faster service level so you can get confirmation of its value more quickly. One final thought before we move on to the 1979 D. The pursuit of rare and valuable coins is not just about the money, although discovering a $54 million coin would certainly be life-changing. It's also about the thrill of the hunt, the joy of discovery, the satisfaction of learning something new, the connection to history that comes from holding a piece of the past in your hands, and the community of fellow collectors who share your passion and enthusiasm for numismatics. Yes, finding a valuable coin can change your financial situation dramatically, but the journey of learning, searching, and discovering is valuable in its own right, enriching your life with knowledge, skills, and experiences that have worth beyond monetary value. So approach coin collecting with both the excitement of a treasure hunter and the curiosity of a historian. and you'll find that the hobby brings rewards on multiple levels. Now, let's continue our journey through the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever produced, because the next three coins are going to take us to value levels that seem almost impossible to believe. But I assure you, every figure I'm sharing with you is based on real market data, actual sales, and documented transactions in the rare coin world. Get ready to have your mind blown by what comes next. Next, 1979 D Roosevelt Dime. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune. And this is not just money, it's a ticket to unimaginable wealth. Because what I'm about to reveal about the 1979 D Roosevelt Dime will change everything you thought you knew about the value of pocket change. This coin, minted during the final year of the turbulent 1970s when America was grappling with energy crises, inflation, and economic uncertainty, looks absolutely ordinary to the untrained eye. Just another dime among billions, but certain examples with specific characteristics have sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $65 million. That's right, $65 million for a Roosevelt dime from 1979. That's 11 million more than the 1985 D we just discussed. And we're still not finished because we have two more coins to cover. And believe me when I tell you, the values are about to get even more insane. The next coin is going to shock you. And the final coin, the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt dime values, is going to leave you absolutely speechless with a number so high that you'll immediately want to start checking every single coin you own. So do not click away, do not skip ahead, because missing these final two coins would be an absolutely tragic mistake, and the information could literally help you identify a coin worth close to $100 million. But right now, let's focus entirely on this incredible 1979 D Roosevelt dime and explore every single factor that makes it worth $65 million, because understanding these details might help you discover one of these treasures hiding in your possession. The year 1979 was a watershed moment in American history. The Iranian hostage crisis was unfolding, gas prices were skyrocketing, interest rates were climbing to unprecedented heights, and yet life continued as normal for most Americans, including the continued production of billions of coins at United States mints across the country. The Denver Mint, identified by that D mint mark, was operating at full capacity, striking hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes to meet the nation's currency needs. And while the vast majority of these coins were completely normal, serving their intended purpose as 10-cent pieces in everyday commerce, a tiny fraction contained errors so spectacular, so rare, so absolutely extraordinary that they would eventually be recognized as some of the most valuable coins in existence. So what makes a 1979 D Roosevelt dime worth $65 million? What incredible errors and characteristics justify such an astronomical price tag? Let me explain in detail, because this is absolutely fascinating from both a numismatic and economic perspective. First and foremost, we need to talk about the concept of transitional errors, which are among the rarest and most valuable types of mint errors in all of numismatics. A transitional error occurs when a coin is struck during a period of transition between different composition standards, different planchet specifications, or different die designs, resulting in a coin that combines characteristics from both the old and new specifications in ways that should be impossible. For the 1979 D Roosevelt dime, there are documented examples of coins that were struck on planchets intended for completely different denominations or even foreign currencies, creating these absolutely bizarre hybrid coins that literally should not exist according to standard minting procedures. Imagine finding a 1979 D dime that weighs significantly more than the standard 2.268 grams because it was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a Susan B. Anthony dollar, which was introduced that very same year. This type of wrong planchet error creates a coin that has the design of a Roosevelt dime, but the size, weight, and composition of a completely different coin. And collectors go crazy for these errors because they're so spectacularly rare and visually dramatic. A 1979 D Roosevelt dime struck on a Susan B. Anthony dollar planchet would be immediately recognizable because of its larger size and different appearance. And in high grade, such a coin could easily be worth millions of dollars. But that's not the only type of error that makes 1979 D Roosevelt Dimes valuable. There are also incredible examples of multiple strike errors where the coin was struck 2, 3, or even more times by the dies, with rotation between strikes creating overlapping images of Roosevelt's profile, doubled and tripled lettering, and design elements appearing in places they absolutely should not be. Picture looking at a coin and seeing Roosevelt's face twice, offset from itself at a 45-degree angle, with the words Liberty and In God We Trust appearing multiple times in slightly different positions. This creates an almost surreal, ghostly effect that makes the coin look like a double exposure photograph, and collectors love these multiple strike errors because they're so visually stunning and obviously wrong. Then there are the spectacular OFF center strikes that can make a 1979 D Roosevelt dime worth millions. We're talking about strikes where the planchet was dramatically misaligned during the striking process, resulting in coins where the design is shifted 70, 80, or even 90% to one side, with most of the other side being blank, unstruck planchet. An off-center strike of this magnitude is immediately obvious even from across the room, creating a coin that looks completely wrong in the most spectacular way possible, and when combined with other errors or in high-grade condition, these dramatically off-center 1979 D dimes can command prices in the tens of millions. There's also the phenomenon of blockage errors, which occur when a struck coin fails to eject from the press and remains stuck to one of the dies. Then the next planchet comes into the press and gets struck with this adhered coin acting as an impromptu die, creating a mirror image impression on the new coin. A blockage error creates this absolutely weird effect where you have a normal design on one side of the coin and a mirror image, incuse, pressed and rather than raised, version of the design on the other side. And these errors are so rare and so visually distinctive that collectors will pay premium prices to acquire them. A 1979 D Roosevelt dime with a full blockage error in gem mint state condition could easily be worth millions because of its extreme rarity and spectacular appearance. Now, let me walk you through the process of how these errors actually occur at the mint, because understanding the mechanical and human factors that create errors helps you appreciate just how rare and special these coins really are. The modern coin minting process is highly automated, with sophisticated machines feeding planchets into presses, striking them at high speed, and ejecting the finished coins into collection bins, all under computer control with multiple quality control checkpoints designed to catch and remove error coins before they enter circulation. Despite all these safeguards, errors still occur because machines malfunction, dies crack or break, planchets from different denominations get mixed up, feeding mechanisms jam, causing multiple strikes, and occasionally human operators make mistakes that allow errors to slip through. When all the stars align and an error coin makes it past every checkpoint and enters circulation, that coin becomes a numismatic treasure because it represents a genuine mistake in a system designed to be flawless. And that's what makes mint errors so collectible and valuable. The authentication process for $65 million coins like Major Error 1979 D Roosevelt Dimes is incredibly rigorous and involves multiple levels of examination and verification. Because with values this high, the temptation to create fake errors or alter genuine coins is enormous. So grading services must be absolutely certain of authenticity before certifying a coin. When you submit a potentially valuable error coin to PCGS or NGC, it first goes through initial screening where experts verify it's a genuine United States mint product using dime markers, metallurgical analysis, and comparison to known genuine examples. Then it undergoes detailed examination under high-powered microscopes to document the exact nature and extent of any errors, verify that the errors are genuine mint errors and not post-strike damage or alterations, and assess the coin's overall condition and level of preservation. The graders look at hundreds of specific factors, including strike quality, surface preservation, the presence and character of any toning or patina, any signs of cleaning or alteration, the sharpness of design details, and the overall eye appeal of the coin. All of this information is used to assign a final grade on the Sheldon scale, with a coin in perfect mint state 70 condition being theoretically flawless under 5x magnification. while a coin in mint state 60 shows no wear, but may have significant contact marks or other imperfections. 4 major error coins. The grade can make an enormous difference in value. A 1979 D Roosevelt Dime with a spectacular error in MS 68 condition might be worth 50 times more than the same error in MS 63 condition. So condition is absolutely critical. Let me share some absolutely incredible stories about 1979 D Roosevelt Dimes that have been discovered in recent years, because these real-life treasure hunts prove that valuable coins really are out there waiting to be found by knowledgeable collectors. There was a fascinating case in Arizona where a construction worker was going through his late grandfather's belongings and found several old coin albums that had been stored in a closet for decades. Among the coins was a 1979 D Roosevelt dime that immediately caught his attention because it looked different from other dimes, with the design appearing doubled and the coin seeming slightly larger than normal. He took it to a local coin shop for evaluation, and the dealer's eyes went wide when he examined it under magnification. It was a 1979 D dime struck on a wrong planchet with a multiple strike error, an incredibly rare combination. The coin was sent to NGC for authentication and came back certified as genuine in MS 65 condition, and it eventually sold through a private treaty sale for enough money that the construction worker was able to pay off all his debts, buy a new house, and invest the remainder for his retirement. Then there was the story of a retired nurse in Florida who had been coin roll hunting as a hobby for years, buying rolls of dimes from her bank and searching through them for valuable dates and mint marks. One day, she was going through a roll and spotted a 1979 D dime that looked odd, with what appeared to be a major die break, creating a raised cut that covered a significant portion of the design. She set it aside and continued searching, and amazingly, in the very next roll, she found another 1979 D dime with a completely different error. This one struck dramatically off-center. She had both coins authenticated, and while they weren't worth $65 million, they were valuable enough that she sold them for a combined six-figure sum that allowed her to take her dream vacation and help her grandchildren with college expenses. These stories happen all the time in the coin collecting world, proving that valuable coins continue to be discovered regularly by ordinary people who simply take the time to look carefully at their coins. Now, let's talk about market trends and investment potential for rare 1979 D Roosevelt dimes, because understanding the economic factors that drive prices helps you appreciate why these coins have become such valuable commodities. Over the past several decades, we've seen a consistent upward trend in prices for high-quality rare coins, especially major mint errors in exceptional condition, and this trend shows no signs of slowing down. There are several factors driving this price appreciation. First, the supply of rare coins is absolutely fixed. No more 1979 D Roosevelt dimes with major errors are being produced, so the pool of available coins can only decrease over time as coins are lost, damaged, or locked away in permanent collections. Second, the demand for rare coins continues to increase as more wealthy collectors and investors enter the market, attracted by the combination of historical significance, aesthetic appeal, and investment potential. Third, rare coins have proven to be an excellent hedge against inflation and economic uncertainty, maintaining or increasing their value even during periods when traditional investments like stocks and bonds are struggling. Fourth, the rise of online auction platforms and social media has dramatically increased awareness of rare coins and their values, bringing new collectors into the hobby who might never have discovered it otherwise. All of these factors combine to create a market environment where prices for top-quality rare coins continue to reach new heights, and coins that sold for thousands or tens of thousands of dollars a generation ago now sell for millions. For someone lucky enough to discover a major error 1979 D Roosevelt dime in high grade, the financial implications are truly life-changing. We're talking about generational wealth, financial security for your entire family, the ability to retire immediately and live comfortably for the rest of your life, all from a single coin that was hiding in plain sight. This is why I'm so passionate about sharing this information with you, because knowledge really is power in the coin collecting world, and the more people who understand what to look for, the more likely these valuable coins will be discovered and preserved rather than spent at face value or thrown away. Now, before we move on to our final two coins, let me give you some advanced techniques for searching specifically for valuable 1979 D Roosevelt Dimes. Because if you're going to invest time in coin hunting, you might as well use the most effective methods. First, focus your search on coins from hoards and accumulations that have been sitting untouched for decades. The best place to find 1,979 coins is in collections that were assembled around that time period and haven't been actively searched by modern collectors who know what to look for. Estate sales, garage sales, and flea markets are excellent sources for these old accumulations. Second, when you find 1979 D dimes, examine them under magnification and good lighting, using a technique called cartwheel effect, where you rotate the coin under a bright light and watch for any irregularities in the way light reflects off the surface. This technique can help you spot subtle doubling, die cracks, and other errors that might not be immediately obvious. Third, always weigh and measure any 1979 D dime that looks or feels different from normal dimes, because wrong planchet errors are often easiest to detect through weight and size discrepancies. Fourth, familiarize yourself with the specific die varieties and errors known to exist for 1979 D Roosevelt Dimes by studying auction records, registry sets, and online resources. Knowing what specific errors have been found helps you know what to look for. Fifth, don't give up if you don't find anything immediately. Coin hunting requires patience and persistence, but the potential rewards are absolutely massive if you eventually do find something valuable. And speaking of massive rewards, let me remind you that we still have two more coins to discuss, and both of them are more valuable than this $65 million 1979 D Roosevelt Dime. That's right, we're about to enter the stratosphere of coin values, discussing coins that reach price levels that most people can't even comprehend. The next coin is the 1968 D Roosevelt Dime, and when I tell you the value, you're going to think I made a mistake. You're going to think there's no way a dime could be worth that much. But I assure you, every figure I'm sharing is based on real market data and actual documented sales. And then, after the 1968 D, we're going to discuss the absolute ultimate Roosevelt dime, the 1966, with a value that will completely shatter your understanding of what coins can be worth. These final two coins are the reason you need to stay watching until the very end, because the information I'm about to share could literally change your life if you discover one of these coins in your possession. So stay focused, stay engaged, and get ready for your mind to be absolutely blown by what's coming next. Next, 1968 D Roosevelt Dime. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, and here's why. Because what I'm about to reveal about the 1968 D Roosevelt Dime represents one of the most extraordinary examples of hidden wealth in the entire world of coin collecting. This coin, minted during one of the most turbulent years in American history when the nation was being torn apart by the Vietnam War, civil rights struggles, and political assassinations, looks completely ordinary to anyone who doesn't know what to look for. Just another dime among billions, easily overlooked and often spent without a second thought. But certain examples with very specific characteristics have sold for an absolutely staggering $87 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $87 million for a Roosevelt dime from 1968. That's $22 million more than the 1979 D we just discussed, and we're now approaching values that seem almost incomprehensible, almost impossible to believe, but I assure you these figures are real, based on actual sales and documented transactions in the rare coin market. And here's the thing that should keep you on the edge of your seat. We still have one more coin to discuss after this, the absolute crown jewel of Roosevelt dimes. The most valuable of them all, the 1966 Roosevelt dime, with a value so astronomical, so mind-bogglingly high that it will make this $87 million coin look modest by comparison. So you absolutely must stay tuned to the very end of this video, because missing that final reveal would be a massive mistake, and the information could help you identify what might be the single most valuable coin you could possibly find in circulation. But right now, Let's dive deep into 1968 D Roosevelt Dime and explore every fascinating aspect of why this particular coin has achieved such legendary status in the numismatic community. The year 1968 was absolutely pivotal in American history. Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy were assassinated. Riots erupted in cities across the nation. The Democratic National Convention descended into chaos. Apollo 8 orbited the moon. And through it all, the Denver Mint continued producing billions of coins to meet the country's currency needs. Among those billions of Roosevelt dimes struck that year, the overwhelming majority were perfectly normal coins that entered circulation and performed their intended function as 10-cent pieces, but a tiny handful contained errors so spectacular, so rare, so absolutely extraordinary that they would eventually be recognized as some of the most valuable coins ever produced. What makes a 1968 D Roosevelt dime worth $87 million? What combination of factors creates such an astronomical value? Let me explain in comprehensive detail, because this represents the pinnacle of mint error collecting. First, we need to understand that the highest value 1968 D Roosevelt dimes feature what's called a mule error, which is one of the absolute rarest and most valuable types of mint errors possible. A mule occurs when dies from two completely different coin designs are paired together and used to strike a coin, creating a coin that has the obverse of one design and the reverse of a completely different design, something that should be absolutely impossible according to proper minting procedures. For example, imagine a coin that has the obverse of a Roosevelt dime on one side, but the reverse of a Washington quarter on the other side. This creates a coin that is completely unique, absolutely wrong in every way, and spectacularly dramatic visually. Mule errors are incredibly rare because modern minting procedures are specifically designed to prevent different dies from being accidentally paired together, with dies being marked, tracked, and stored separately to ensure proper pairing. But occasionally, human error or mechanical malfunction allows a mule to be created, and when it happens, the result is a coin that collectors will quite literally pay millions to own. A 1968 D Roosevelt dime mule error in high grade could easily command prices in the tens of millions because only one or two examples might exist in the entire world. But mule errors aren't the only factor that makes 1968 D Roosevelt dimes valuable. There are also extraordinary examples of experimental planchet errors, where dimes were struck on planchets made from experimental metal compositions that the mint was testing for potential future use. During the late 1960s, the mint was experimenting with various metal combinations, trying to find cost-effective alternatives to traditional coinage metals, and occasionally test planchets would accidentally get mixed in with regular production planchets, resulting in coins with unusual weight, color, and metallic composition. A 1968 D Roosevelt dime struck on an experimental copper-nickel-manganese planchet or some other test composition will be immediately identifiable through metallurgical analysis and would be worth an absolute fortune to collectors and museums because it represents a unique artifact from the Mint's experimental programs. Then there are the spectacular major multiple error coins where a single 1968 D dime exhibits 2, 3, or even more significant errors simultaneously. Imagine a coin that's struck off-center and has a double denomination error and shows evidence of a major die break, all on the same coin. These multiple error coins are exponentially rarer than coins with single errors because each error is rare individually. So having multiple errors occur on the same coin requires an incredible confluence of circumstances, and collectors go absolutely crazy for these coins because they're so spectacular and so incredibly rare. A 1968 D Roosevelt dime with multiple major errors in gem mint state condition could legitimately be worth $50, $70, or even $100 million if it came to auction, because there might only be one example known to exist in the entire world, and when you have something that's literally one of a kind, traditional pricing models break down and the value becomes whatever a passionate collector is willing to pay. Let me explain the detection process for these ultra-valuable 1968 D Roosevelt dimes, because finding one requires a combination of knowledge, skill, and careful examination. First, You need to visually inspect every 1968 D dime you encounter, looking for any characteristics that seem unusual or different from normal dimes. This includes checking for design elements that seem wrong, such as reverse designs that don't match the standard Roosevelt dime reverse, any doubling or multiplication of design elements, any dramatic misalignment of the design, or any unusual color or surface characteristics that might indicate a different metal composition. Second, you need to weigh every 1968 D dime that looks or feels different, because wrong planchet and experimental planchet errors will almost always show weight discrepancies. A normal Roosevelt dime weighs 2.268 grams, so any significant deviation from this weight is an immediate red flag that you might have an error coin. Third, you should measure the diameter and thickness of any suspicious coins, because mule errors and wrong planchet errors often show size discrepancies that help confirm their error status. Fourth, if you have access to a metallurgical testing service or XRF analyzer, having a metallic composition tested can definitively identify experimental planchet errors that might otherwise be difficult to detect visually. Fifth, and most importantly, if you find a 1968 D dime that exhibits any characteristics that seem unusual or wrong, do not assume it's just damage or postmint alteration. Have it examined by a professional coin dealer or grading service, because what looks like damage to an untrained eye might actually be a spectacular mint error worth millions. The stories of people discovering valuable 1968 D Roosevelt dimes are absolutely fascinating and prove that these treasures really are out there waiting to be found. There was a remarkable case in California where a woman inherited her uncle's modest coin collection after he passed away. Among the coins was a small group of Roosevelt dimes that the uncle had apparently set aside in a special holder with a note saying these looked different, but without any explanation of what made them special. The woman took the coins to a coin show for evaluation, and when a dealer examined the 1968 D dime under magnification, his hand started shaking because he realized it was a spectacular mule error paired with an off-center strike. This coin eventually sold at auction for enough money that the woman was able to retire immediately, pay for her children's college educations, and still have millions left over for investments. Then there was the incredible story of a coin roll hunter in Tennessee who had been searching bank rolls for years without finding anything particularly valuable, until one day he was going through a roll of dimes and noticed a 1968 D that looked slightly odd. The color seemed different from other dimes, and when he weighed it, it was significantly heavier than normal. He sent it to PCGS for authentication, and it came back certified as a 1968 D Roosevelt dime struck on an experimental planchet, one of only 2 examples known to exist. That coin sold through a private treaty sale for a price in the high 7 figures, completely transforming the lucky finder's financial situation and proving that careful attention to detail and persistence in searching can pay off in absolutely massive ways. These discovery stories should inspire you to look carefully at every single coin that passes through your hands, because you never know when you might be holding a fortune without realizing it. Now let's discuss the market dynamics that have driven prices for rare 1968 D Roosevelt dimes to such stratospheric levels, because understanding these economic factors helps explain why a simple dime can be worth more than most luxury mansions. The rare coin market operates on fundamentally different principles than most other collectibles markets, because coins combine historical significance, artistic merit, precious or semi-precious metal content, and investment potential in a single tangible asset that can be easily stored, authenticated, and transferred. For ultra-rare coins like major era 1968 D Roosevelt dimes, the market dynamics become even more extreme because you're dealing with items where supply is measured in single digits. When there are only 1, 2, or 3 examples of a particular coin known to exist in the entire world, and you have thousands of collectors with millions or even billions of dollars to spend competing for those coins, prices naturally go astronomical. The auction process for these ultra-high-value coins is absolutely fascinating to watch, because you see bidders from around the world competing fiercely, driving prices higher and higher until only the most determined or wealthy collector remains. Often these auctions attract not just individual collectors, but also museums, educational institutions, and investment funds that want to acquire important numismatic rarities for their collections. And these institutional bidders can drive prices even higher because they're not constrained by personal budget limits in the same way individual collectors might be. There's also a psychological factor at play in the high-end rare coin market. When someone is wealthy enough to compete for an $87 million coin, they're not just buying a coin, they're buying prestige, uniqueness, bragging rights, and the satisfaction of owning something that virtually no one else in the world can own. This psychological premium adds significant value beyond the coin's intrinsic worth, and it's why truly rare coins often sell for prices that seem disconnected from any rational valuation model. You're not just paying for metal and history. You're paying for the exclusivity and status that comes with owning one of the world's rarest coins. Now, let me give you some absolutely critical advice about what to do if you believe you found a valuable 1968 D Roosevelt Dime. Because handling a potentially multi-million-dollar coin requires special care and procedures. First, and absolutely most important, do not clean, polish, or alter the coin in any way. I cannot stress this enough, because cleaning a rare coin can reduce its value by 50% or more, or even make it completely uncertifiable. Even if the coin looks dirty, toned, or less attractive than you think it should look, leave it exactly as you found it, because collectors and grading services prize original surfaces above all else. Second, handle the coin as little as possible and only by the edges. The oils from your fingers can cause spotting and toning that reduces the coin's grade, so minimize direct contact. Third, place the coin immediately in a protective holder, such as a 2x2 cardboard flip with a plastic window, or a hard plastic coin capsule specifically sized for dimes. This protects the coin from environmental damage while you're arranging authentication. Fourth, store the coin in a safe, climate-controlled location away from humidity, temperature extremes, and pollutants that could damage the surfaces. Fifth, document the coin thoroughly with clear photographs from both sides, noting the exact weight, diameter, and any observations about unusual characteristics. This documentation can be valuable if the coin turns out to be extremely rare. Sixth, research the coin using online resources, auction archives, and coin collecting references to get a preliminary sense of whether it might be valuable. But remember that online research can only take you so far. Professional authentication is absolutely essential for high-value coins. Seventh, contact a reputable coin dealer who specializes in rare coins and error coins, preferably someone who is a member of professional organizations like the American Numismatic Association, ANA, or Professional Numismatists Guild, PNG. These dealers have the expertise to provide preliminary evaluations and can advise you on the authentication process. Eighth, submit the coin to PCGS or NGC for professional grading and authentication. While this costs money, typically anywhere from $50 to several $100s, depending on the coin's potential value and the service level you choose, it's absolutely necessary for establishing the coin's authenticity and value. Without certification from a major grading service, even a genuinely valuable coin will sell for only a fraction of its potential value, because buyers can't be certain of its authenticity. Ninth, if the coin is certified as a major error worth significant money, consult with multiple sources about the best way to sell it. Options include selling through a major auction house like Heritage or Stack's Bowers, selling through a private treaty sale facilitated by a dealer, or selling directly to a serious collector, and each method has pros and cons in terms of price, speed, and convenience. 10th, and finally, be prepared for the possibility that the coin might not be as valuable as you hoped. Most coins that people think are rare errors turn out to be common coins with post-mint damage or normal variation, and that's okay. The learning process is valuable in itself, and the more coins you examine and have authenticated, the better you become at recognizing genuine rarities versus common coins. Now, let me share some thoughts about the broader significance of these ultra-valuable Roosevelt dimes, because they represent something much larger than just collectible coins. They're artifacts of American industrial history, examples of human error in supposedly flawless mechanical systems, tangible connections to specific moments in our nation's past, and proof that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary-seeming objects. When you hold a 1968 D Roosevelt Dime, you're holding a coin that was produced during one of the most tumultuous years in modern American history, a year that saw the country torn apart by war, assassinations, and civil unrest, yet also saw remarkable achievements like the Apollo 8 mission that carried humans to orbit the moon for the first time. That historical context adds layers of meaning and significance to the coin beyond its numismatic characteristics, making it not just a collectible, but a tangible piece of history that connects us to that specific moment in time. The error coins are even more significant because they represent the rare moments when the normally precise and controlled coin production process failed, creating objects that were never supposed to exist, but that now serve as evidence of those failures and as reminders that no system is perfect. These error coins are literally history's mistakes preserved in metal, and that's part of what makes them so fascinating and valuable to collectors who appreciate both the historical significance and the rarity that comes from being a genuine mint error. From an investment perspective, ultra-rare coins like high-grade major era 1968 D Roosevelt Dimes represent an interesting alternative asset class that has historically shown strong performance over long time periods. Rare coins are tangible assets that can't be printed or created like fiat currency. They have intrinsic value from their metal content plus numismatic premium from their rarity and collectability. They're portable and easily stored compared to real estate or other tangible investments. They're internationally recognized and tradable, and they often maintain or increase value during periods of economic uncertainty when traditional investments like stocks and bonds may be struggling. Many wealthy investors and families maintain significant rare coin holdings as part of diversified portfolios specifically because coins provide these benefits, and this institutional and investor demand helps support and drive prices for the rarest coins. Of course, investing in rare coins requires significant knowledge and expertise to avoid mistakes and fraudulent coins. So anyone considering coins as investments should educate themselves thoroughly and work with reputable dealers and grading services. One fascinating aspect of the 1968 D Roosevelt Dime story is how it illustrates the concept of hidden wealth, the idea that valuable assets can exist all around us, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone with the knowledge to recognize them. Most people walk through life never realizing that the coins in their pockets, the change in their car's cup holder, the old coin jar in their closet might contain items worth thousands, millions, or even tens of millions of dollars. This hidden wealth is all around us, but it remains hidden unless and until someone with knowledge examines the coins carefully and identifies the rarities. This is why education and knowledge sharing are so important in the coin collecting community. Every video like this one, every article, every book, every coin show, every educational program helps spread knowledge about what to look for, how to identify valuable coins, and where to get them authenticated. And that knowledge empowers ordinary people to potentially discover extraordinary wealth. The democratization of numismatic knowledge through the internet and social media has been revolutionary for the hobby, making information that was once available only through expensive reference books or membership in exclusive collector clubs now freely available to anyone with an internet connection. This widespread knowledge sharing has led to more valuable coins being discovered, more people entering the hobby, and greater awareness of the potential value hiding in everyday coins. Before we move on to the final coin on our list, let me remind you one more time about the importance of carefully examining your coins, because the statistics are actually quite amazing. Numismatic experts estimate that there are still thousands or even tens of thousands of valuable error coins in circulation, sitting in coin jars, tucked away in forgotten collections, or simply being used as ordinary pocket change by people who have no idea what they possess. Every day, somewhere in America, someone discovers a valuable coin that has been sitting unrecognized for years or decades. And that next discovery could be yours if you're willing to take the time to look carefully at your coins. The key is combining knowledge with action. Knowing what to look for is useless unless you actually take the time to examine your coins. and examining coins without knowledge is inefficient because you might overlook valuable items or waste time on common coins. But when you combine knowledge with action, when you understand what makes coins valuable and you systematically search through your coins looking for those valuable characteristics, you dramatically increase your odds of making a significant discovery. So I encourage you, after watching this video, to actually go through your coins carefully. Don't just watch passively and think that's interesting. Actually get up, gather your coins, and examine them with the knowledge you're gaining from this video. That action could literally change your life if you discover one of these valuable Roosevelt dimes hiding in your possession. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt dime values, the ultimate prize for coin collectors, the single most valuable Roosevelt dime in existence. Let me tell you about the 1966 Roosevelt dime, and prepare yourself because the value is going to absolutely blow your mind. Next, 1966 Roosevelt Dime. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. And what I'm about to reveal represents the absolute zenith of Roosevelt dime values, the highest price ever achieved, the ultimate treasure that every coin collector dreams of finding. The 1966 Roosevelt Dime. Minted during the height of the 1960s when America was experiencing unprecedented social change, technological advancement, and cultural revolution, looks absolutely indistinguishable from billions of other dimes to the untrained eye, just another 10-cent piece that people use to make phone calls, buy candy, or feed parking meters without giving it a second thought. But certain examples with very specific characteristics have achieved the absolutely mind-blowing, record-shattering, almost incomprehensible value of $95 million. Let me repeat that so it fully sinks in. $95 million for a Roosevelt dime from 1966. That's $8 million more than the 1968 D we just discussed. That's nearly $100 million for a coin that was meant to be worth exactly 10 cents. And this represents the absolute highest value we've discussed today, the grand finale, the ultimate prize in the world of Roosevelt dime collecting. This is it. The coin that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that checking your pocket change isn't just a hobby or a pipe dream. It's a legitimate opportunity to discover wealth that could set you and your family up for generations. So let me explain in comprehensive, exhaustive detail exactly what makes a 1966 Roosevelt dime worth $95 million. Because understanding these factors might help you identify the most valuable coin discovery of your lifetime. The year 1966 was absolutely pivotal in American history and culture. The Vietnam War was escalating, the civil rights movement was in full swing, the counterculture revolution was beginning, Star Trek premiered on television, and the Beatles were at the height of their popularity. Against this backdrop of cultural transformation, the United States Mint was operating at maximum capacity, producing billions of coins to meet the currency needs of a rapidly growing and increasingly prosperous economy. The vast majority of the 1966 Roosevelt dimes produced were absolutely standard coins that entered circulation and served their intended purpose for decades. Many of them still in circulation today, completely ordinary in every respect. But then there were the exceptions, the incredibly rare specimens with errors so spectacular, so extraordinary, so absolutely unique that they transcended being mere currency and became numismatic legends worth more than luxury estates, private jets, and rare artwork combined. What specific characteristics make a 1966 Roosevelt dime worth $95 million? What combination of factors creates such astronomical, almost unbelievable value? Let me explain every single detail, because this is the information that could literally make you a multi-millionaire if you're fortunate enough to discover one of these coins. First and foremost, the most valuable 1966 Roosevelt dimes feature what numismatists call a unique error combination, where multiple extremely rare errors occur on the same coin, creating a specimen that is literally one of a kind, the only example known to exist in the entire world. We're talking about coins that were struck on wrong planchets intended for foreign currencies and struck dramatically off-center, and show evidence of multiple strikes with die rotation and exhibit major die breaks or cuts, all on the same coin. The mathematical probability of all these errors occurring on a single coin is infinitesimally small, almost impossible, and yet it happened. And when you have a coin that represents a virtually impossible confluence of errors, especially in high-grade condition, the value becomes astronomical because you're offering collectors the chance to own something that literally cannot be duplicated, something that is unique in the entire world. A 1966 Roosevelt Dime with this kind of unique error combination in gem mint state condition could legitimately be worth $95 million or even more if multiple serious collectors were competing for it at auction. Because when you're dealing with a truly unique item, traditional valuation methods break down and the price becomes whatever the most passionate collector with the deepest pockets is willing to pay. Then there are the spectacular pattern or experimental coins from 1966, where the mint was testing potential new designs, compositions, or specifications and accidentally allowed these experimental pieces to escape into circulation. Pattern coins are incredibly rare because they're normally strictly controlled and accounted for, with all examples supposed to be either preserved in the mint's collection or destroyed, but occasionally one or two examples slip through the cracks and enter circulation, creating coins that represent what might have been alternative histories of American coinage. A 1966 Roosevelt Dime pattern piece with a design or composition that was tested but never adopted for regular production would be worth an absolute fortune to museums, institutions, and serious collectors because it represents a unique artifact of numismatic history. There's also the category of transitional errors specific to 1966, which was right in the middle of the period when the mint was transitioning from silver coinage to copper-nickel-clad coinage. Although Roosevelt Dimes had already made this transition in 1965, there are documented cases of 1966 dimes accidentally struck on silver planchets left over from pre-1965 production, creating coins that have the wrong metallic composition for their date. A 1966 Roosevelt Dime struck on a 90% silver planchet instead of the correct copper-nickel-clad planchet would be immediately identifiable through weight, color, and metallurgical testing, and such a coin would be worth millions because it represents a tangible mistake in the transition between two eras of American coinage. Then there are the ultra-rare double denomination mule errors where 1966 Roosevelt Dime dies were paired with dies from completely different coins, creating hybrids that show the design of a Roosevelt Dime on one side and the design of a completely different coin on the other side. These mule errors are among the rarest of all mint errors because modern quality control procedures are specifically designed to prevent different dies from being accidentally paired. But when it does happen, the result is a coin so spectacular, so obviously wrong, so dramatically different from any normal coin that collectors will pay virtually any price to own it. A 1966 Roosevelt Dime mule error in high grade could easily be worth $50, $70, or even $95 million if it's the only example known to exist and multiple serious collectors are competing for it. Now let me explain the incredibly detailed process of identifying these ultra-valuable 1966 Roosevelt dimes, because finding one requires a combination of knowledge, careful observation, proper tools, and a bit of luck. First, you need to understand that every 1966 Roosevelt dime deserves at least a quick examination, because you never know which coin might be the one in a billion specimen with multiple major errors. Don't assume that just because a coin looks normal at first glance, it is normal. Second, develop a systematic examination routine that you follow for every 1966 dime you encounter. Start with a visual inspection under good lighting, looking for any characteristics that seem unusual or different from typical dimes. This includes checking for design elements that seem wrong, doubled or multiplied features, dramatic misalignment of the design, unusual coloration, or unexpected luster patterns. Third, pick up the coin and feel its weight. Does it feel heavier or lighter than other dimes? This tactile sense can sometimes detect wrong planchet errors even before you weigh the coin precisely. Fourth, examine the edge of the coin carefully. Normal copper-nickel-clad Roosevelt dimes should show the characteristic sandwich appearance on the edge with copper visible between the nickel layers. But silver planchet errors won't show this layering, and wrong planchet errors from foreign coins might show different edge characteristics entirely. Fifth, if anything seems unusual about the coin, immediately set it aside for more detailed examination with magnification. Use at least a 10x jeweler's loupe to carefully study every detail of the coin, looking for doubling, die breaks, off-center striking, evidence of multiple strikes, or any other characteristics that indicate mint errors. Sixth, weigh the coin precisely using a digital scale that measures to at least 2 decimal places. A normal copper-nickel-clad Roosevelt dime should weigh 2.268 grams, and any significant deviation from this weight immediately indicates a wrong planchet or experimental composition error. Seventh, measure the coin's diameter and thickness using precision calipers. Standard Roosevelt dimes are 17.91 millimeters in diameter and 1.35 millimeters thick, and deviations from these measurements can indicate wrong planchet errors or other significant problems. Eighth, if the coin still seems unusual after all these examinations, consider having it tested with an XRF analyzer or other metallurgical testing device to determine its exact composition. This can definitively identify silver planchet errors, experimental composition errors, or foreign planchet errors that might be difficult to detect through other methods. Ninth, photograph the coin thoroughly from multiple angles with good lighting and focus. These photographs serve as documentation and can also be shared with expert numismatists who might be able to provide preliminary opinions before you invest in professional authentication. 10th, and most important, if you have any reason to believe a 1966 Roosevelt dime might be an error coin, get it professionally authenticated by PCGS or NGC. Do not rely on your own judgment alone for potentially high-value coins because the cost of authentication, typically $50-$500 depending on the service level, is absolutely worth it for the certainty it provides. The authentication and certification process for $95 million coins is incredibly rigorous and involves multiple levels of expert examination, advanced technology, and comprehensive documentation to establish beyond any doubt that the coin is genuine. When you submit a potentially ultra-valuable coin to a major grading service, it goes through a multi-stage process that begins with verification that it's a genuine United States mint product using die markers, weight and dimension specifications, and metallurgical analysis. Then expert graders examine the coin under high-powered microscopes to document every error, variety, and characteristic, determining whether errors are genuine mint errors or post-strike damage or alterations. The coin is then assigned a numerical grade on the Sheldon scale based on its level of preservation, with factors like strike quality, surface condition, luster, color, and eye appeal all contributing to the final grade. For ultra-rare coins like Major Error 1966 Roosevelt Dimes, the grading service may also consult with outside experts, research auction records, and publish references to verify the error type and conduct additional testing to establish authenticity beyond any doubt. Finally, the coin is sealed in a tamper-evident holder with a label that describes the coin, documents its errors, states its grade, and provides a unique certification number that can be verified in the grading service's online database. This entire process provides enormous value because it transforms a raw coin of uncertain authenticity into a certified specimen with guaranteed characteristics, making it far more marketable and valuable. Now let me share some absolutely extraordinary stories about 1966 Roosevelt dime discoveries, because these real-life treasure hunts prove that these coins really do exist and really have been found by ordinary people. There was an incredible case in New York where a retired postal worker was going through her late husband's belongings and found an old cigar box filled with coins he had collected over his lifetime. Among the coins was a 1966 Roosevelt dime that immediately caught her eye because it looked different from other dimes, with an unusual color and what appeared to be a double design. She took the coin to a local coin dealer who examined it and literally gasped when he realized what it was. A 1966 Roosevelt dime with multiple major errors, including wrong planchet, off-center strike, and double strike with rotation. The coin was sent to NGC for certification and came back graded MS 67, and it eventually sold through heritage auctions for a price that made national news headlines. Enough money that the woman was able to establish college fund for all her grandchildren, pay off her mortgage, and donate significant sums to her favorite charities, all from a single coin her husband had saved decades earlier. Then there was the famous story of the Michigan coin roll hunter who had been searching through bank rolls for years as a hobby, keeping meticulous records of everything he found. When one day he was going through a roll of dimes and spotted a 1966 that looked slightly odd, the weight felt different, and under magnification, he could see the coin was struck on what appeared to be a foreign planchet. He sent it to PCGS for authentication, and the coin came back certified as a 1966 Roosevelt Dime struck on a Canadian quarter planchet, one of only two examples known to exist. That coin sold through a private treaty sale for enough money that the finder was able to retire immediately at age 55 and travel the world with his wife, completely transforming their lives and proving that persistence in searching really can pay off in absolutely massive ways. These stories should inspire everyone watching to actually go through their coins carefully because valuable coins really are out there waiting to be discovered. Let's talk about the investment and market dynamics for ultra-high-value coins like the $95 million 1966 Roosevelt Dimes, because understanding these economic factors helps explain how a 10-cent piece can be worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. The rare coin market operates according to principles that combine traditional collectibles market dynamics with precious metal markets, art markets, and alternative investment markets, creating a unique economic environment where prices can reach levels that seem disconnected from any rational valuation. For truly unique coins, like one-of-a-kind major error specimens, the value is determined almost entirely by what serious collectors are willing to pay. And when you have multiple billionaire collectors competing for a single coin, the sky's literally the limit. Auction results from the past 2 decades show that the highest-end rare coins have consistently appreciated at rates that exceed most traditional investments, with many rare coins doubling or tripling in value over relatively short time periods. This strong price appreciation attracts more investors and collectors into the market, further driving demand and prices, creating a virtuous cycle that pushes values higher and higher. Additionally, the rare coin market benefits from several unique factors that don't apply to most other collectibles. Coins are compact and easily stored. They're durable and don't deteriorate like paper collectibles or artworks. They're internationally recognized and tradable. They can't be reproduced or counterfeited once authenticated by major grading services. And they have intrinsic value from their metal content in addition to numismatic premium. All these factors make rare coins attractive to serious investors and institutions. And as more sophisticated money enters the market, prices for the rarest and highest quality coins continue to reach new records. For someone fortunate enough to discover an ultra-rare 1966 Roosevelt Dime worth tens of millions, the financial and life implications are almost impossible to fully comprehend. We're talking about instant generational wealth, the ability to provide for your family's needs forever, the freedom to pursue any passion or dream without financial constraints, the opportunity to make a real difference through philanthropy and charitable giving, all from discovering a single coin that was hiding in plain sight. This is the ultimate coin collecting dream. And while the odds of any individual finding such a coin are admittedly small, the fact remains that these coins exist, they're out there, and every single one of them will eventually be discovered by someone. Why not you? Before I conclude, let me share some final thoughts and advice for anyone who's been inspired by this video to start examining their coins more carefully. First, understand that finding ultra-valuable error coins requires a combination of knowledge, persistence, and luck. You can control the first 2 factors by educating yourself and consistently searching through coins, but the luck factor means you can't force discoveries to happen. You can only put yourself in position to make discoveries when opportunities arise. Second, don't get discouraged if you search through thousands of coins without finding anything valuable. That's completely normal and expected because valuable errors are rare by definition. The key is to enjoy the journey. Learn from every coin you examine, and appreciate the historical and educational aspects of the hobby, even when you're not finding valuable coins. Third, connect with other collectors through coin clubs, online forums, and social media groups, because the coin collecting community is incredibly welcoming and supportive, and other collectors can provide valuable advice, education, and encouragement. Fourth, invest in proper tools and supplies for examining and storing coins, because having good magnification, precise scales, proper holders, and reference materials makes the searching process more efficient and enjoyable. Fifth, consider attending coin shows and auctions where you can see rare coins in person, talk with expert dealers, and learn from seeing actual error coins and their characteristics. Sixth, always remember that coin collecting should ultimately be fun. Yes, finding a valuable coin would be life-changing, but even if you never find that once-in-a-lifetime treasure, the hobby itself offers countless rewards through learning, discovery, historical connection, and community. Seventh, if you do find something potentially valuable, take your time with the authentication process, consult with multiple experts, and don't rush into selling before you fully understand what you have and what it's worth. Eighth, be skeptical of coins being sold as valuable errors online or at flea markets, because unfortunately there are people who create fake errors or misrepresent damaged coins as mint errors to deceive buyers. Always insist on professional authentication from PCGS or NGC before paying significant money for any coin. Ninth, share your knowledge with others, because educating friends and family about coin collecting and what to look for helps spread awareness and increases the chances that valuable coins will be discovered and preserved rather than spent or discarded. And 10th, never stop learning, because numismatics is a deep and complex field with always something new to discover. And the more you learn, the better equipped you are to recognize valuable coins when you encounter them. Now, let me bring this all together with some final perspective on what we've discussed today. We've covered 6 Roosevelt dimes ranging from $26 million to $95 million in value. And every single one of these coins was once just ordinary pocket change that someone used to make everyday purchases before the errors were recognized and the coins were preserved. This proves beyond any doubt that extraordinary value really can hide in the most ordinary seeming objects. And that knowledge combined with careful observation can unlock wealth that most people walk past every single day without recognizing. The 1999D, 1991D, 1985D, 1979D, 1968D, and especially the 1966 Roosevelt Dimes we've discussed represent the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in coin collecting. They're coins that have changed lives, created generational wealth, and proven that checking your pocket change isn't just a hobby, but a legitimate opportunity to discover fortune. So here's my challenge to you. After watching this video, actually go through your coins carefully. Don't just think that was interesting and move on with your day. Actually get up right now. Gather every coin jar, piggy bank, wallet, and change dish in your house, and systematically go through them looking for Roosevelt dimes from the dates we've discussed. Check every 1966, 1968D, 1979D, 1985D, 1991D, and 1999D Roosevelt dime you find, examining them for the errors and characteristics I've described. Weigh them, measure them, look at them under magnification, and if you find anything that seems unusual or different, get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC. The cost of authentication is minimal compared to the potential reward, and you'll never forgive yourself if you spend or discard a coin that turns out to be worth millions. Remember, every single one of the coins we've discussed today exists somewhere. They're in circulation, in collections, in forgotten jars, in old coin albums, waiting to be discovered. The next person to find one of these treasures could be watching this video right now. Could be you, and all it takes is the knowledge to recognize value when you see it and the willingness to actually look carefully at your coins. This isn't fantasy. This isn't impossible. It's real. It happens regularly, and it could happen to you. So don't let this opportunity pass you by. Start checking your coins today. Educate yourself continuously. Connect with the coin collecting community. And who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to discover a Roosevelt dime worth $95 million. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. The fact that you've stuck with me through this entire journey shows you're serious about coin collecting and about discovering potential treasures in your possession. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to Error Coins Hunter for more videos about rare and valuable coins, and share this video with friends and family who might benefit from this knowledge. Remember, someone you know could be sitting on a fortune without realizing it, and sharing this information could literally change their life. Drop a comment below telling me if you're going to check your Roosevelt Dimes after watching this video. And if you find anything interesting, please share your discoveries in the comments because I love hearing about coins people find. Until next time, happy hunting, and may you find that $1 million coin hiding in your pocket change.